Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Good morning. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the January 30th, 2013 Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. Commissioner Kokoski has our dog this morning.
We got a cute one today. He's about 6 years old. He's limping on the front. I don't know if it's arthritis or if he's got a little hurt paw, but he would make somebody a great pet. 6 years old, Shih Tzu mix. Actually, if you turn around. Here, come here. Turn around. So if I could see your face. You really got a cute face. There you go. Look at how cute he is. We have about 35 dogs at the kennel, so if you're looking to get a dog for your family, please come down there first before you try anything else. And actually, my sister might want this one. Her birthday was Monday, but she had a dog look kind of like this. His name was Punky. So maybe you might want to name him Punky. It's really cute. Come down to the kennel. You could also check us out on the website to see what dogs we have available. Thank you. Come on, baby.
Thank you, Commissioner Kokoski. Madam Clerk?
We're going to do the employee anniversary recommendations.
Right. First, we're going to do our one-year pins. If you want to all come up at the end, that would be great. In purchasing, Susan Liu, Lux. In workforce development, Tanisha Taylor. And community development, Lawrence Hall. Those are our 3 one-year pins. And for 5 years in our records center, Tom Ivancic. In community development, Angela Brown and Virginia Haynes. Our 10-year commissioner pins, Gilda Arzwaga, is that how you say that? Chris Rico. And from community development, Linda Blanchette. And our 20-year workforce development, Dale Kredovics. Solid Waste, Beverly Gardner, and I'm going to mess this one up too, maybe Golden Acres, Vincenzo Battaglio, thank you. I'd never make it on The Price is Right, would I? So if you guys all come up and I will hand you your pins. Just to let you know, our one-year pins, they just say 1 year on them. They don't have any kind of stone. Our 5-year pins has like a blue. 10-year pins have a ruby, and our 20-year pins have a diamond. So that's how you can distinguish which is which.
Hello.
Hi there.
20.
20?
Yep.
Wow, congratulations. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Lawrence is 1.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, how you doing?
Both 5.
Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you.
5 year? Here we go. Thank you. 1 year for you. Maybe you'll come back and get 4 more. 5 year. Oh, thank you very much.
10. 20.
20. Oh my gosh. Congratulations. Thank you.
10. So,
We have 3 people that did.
so we, Tanisha income, and gilded income, and the gilded income. Okay.
Madam Clerk?
At 9:45, we're going to have our public hearing on the culvert number 779, Gore Orphanage Road, north of State Route 18 in Bryan Township. Under resolutions number 1, Job and Family Services bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
There was advances.
There was?
Yes.
Okay. Advances, repayments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Travel.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
Thank you, Commissioner Kalo. I do have a number of personnel issues at Golden Acres Community Development. The Economic Development Corporation, 911, and also we're probably going to have a moderately lengthy conversation concerning bargaining unit issues and labor negotiations. Both those topics are allowable for hiring and appointment. Both those topics are allowable under the Sunshine Law for executive session talk, so I'd ask at the conclusion of our regular board meeting, say we go into executive session and discuss those issues mentioned. Thank you.
Approve and waive the reading of the same in the County Commissioners meeting minutes of January 23rd, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Amendment Resolution 12693 adopted October 24th, 2012, awarding an elevator maintenance contract to Coney, Inc., Brecksfield for various county buildings. Amendment is to reflect the commencement date from October 1st, 2012 to July 5th, 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under Community Development, award agreement with CT Consultants Mentor in the amount of $23,100 for state-required RRS inspectors for fiscal year 12 CDBG formula grant.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Award contract to CT Consultants Mentor in the amount of $5,500 to provide professional services for pre-application work and preparation of FY13 CHIP grant.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Approve and enter an agreement with Neighborhood House Alliance in the amount of $40,000 for Meals on Wheels program, effective retroactive January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013, to be paid from the Senior Citizens account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Cordez, I know there were a lot of discussion on this in regards to our Office on Aging. Was there any agreement or any type of assurances that the southern end of the county would get addressed on Meals on Wheels with the Neighborhood Alliance?
The southern end of the county will be taken care of. We've tried to broker teasing efficiencies out of this now for, this is the second year. We had Neighborhood Alliance doing a large volume of meals, and then we had the Office on Aging, which is more commonly known as Lorain County Seniors, doing a smaller portion, and we wanted to collapse those things together so that we could bring more cost-effective services. Now, it's my understanding that they haven't had the most productive discussions in the whole world, but they're heading in that direction. But it still makes sense to volume do this. If we're not succeeding at that and continuing those services down there, then we'll be back to see you to make a modification of this.
Just want to make sure there's not a gap in service for the southern end, that's all.
And Don's had discussion with them, and I spoke with Don this morning on this. But there's still some friction between the parties. So with this designation, it's going, sometimes you have to force people to do things together.
I understand that, and there's a new director at the Office on Aging. I haven't had a chance to meet her yet, but
I'm sure they'll be around. They've been good partners over the years, but these services need to be combined to get the efficiencies out of the delivery.
thank you.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Approve and enter an agreement with Neighborhood House Alliance in the amount of $30,000 for homeless shelter services, effective retroactive to January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013, to be paid from the shelter account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Award agreement with the City of Amherst for their home building repair activity, which is part of the county's FY12 CDBG grant, effective January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Approve the appropriation and repayment of coastal erosion loan with Crystal Culvert Condominiums, Inc. in the amount of $7,101.52 to the Ohio Water Development Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under Job and Family, authorized purchase service agreement with El Centro de Services Socialist, Inc., Lorain, to provide Spanish consultant services in the amount not to exceed $800, effective February 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. Authorized director to amend for changes in program and content and increased value on behalf of the Board of Prosecutors approval as to form.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Under Solid Waste, adopt the rules of Lorain County Solid Waste Management District pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 343.01G2.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this for 2 weeks.
The reason?
Well, if I can get a second, then we can go into discussion.
Okay, second.
Reason for it is I've had a lot of discussion with individuals on this. Some of them would like more information, mayors, trustees, and with the majority of the trustees being at the Township Association meeting this week, they would like to come in and address the issue. We know they're going to be here on February 6th in the evening for the county land bank, or county building department. So I'd like to table it so they can actually go through, give their opinion on this. Allows me to go through, do a little bit more research on it, and then we could take this for a vote on the 13th. I spoke with Mr. Cortez. You felt that this could wait for
Well, when it's waited this long, it wouldn't hurt the issue to wait a few weeks longer.
Would you like to hear from our director?
Mr. Bailey?
If the rules aren't passed today, then the next resolution cannot pass as well, the one on the waiver, because they have to go hand in hand together. We have given the 30-day comment period. We have had a public hearing. That is more the requirement of the law, so it's up to commissioners what they decide at this
And how
point.
much are we losing in the past month? I didn't bring my figures out.
It's costing us right now about $45,000 a year that we can identify, all right?
Okay.
It's going to cost us more down the road. Bill and Mickey are here today. They would be going out and identifying those waste haulers that don't have waiver agreements in place in the future. And then once we identify those and get those under waiver agreements, then we'd have everybody buttoned up very quickly. So it's up to the Board of Commissioners what they decide to do.
$45,000 in our solid waste program. I mean, I've heard from some of the townships that they didn't want to stifle competition, but Republic is a large employer in our county.
Yeah, but to go through and give a unfair advantage to one employer over another.
It's not unfair. It brings everybody up to the playing field. They're reimbursing us our $2 per ton that's leaving the county, and they're not paying back to our district.
Yeah,
which
but
provides us, gives the ability to do like our discretionary funds, as the veterans were asking
Right.
about. I mean, that's where all that money comes from, is from that $2 tipping fee.
I understand it, but by having the $2 destination fee from, and that's why I want to look into it, what I'm being told is most counties that don't have a landfill, the reason they use the destination fee is in order to support their solid waste district that's required by statute. By having a company that is taking their trash outside Lorain County and now have to pay this destination fee, you're creating an additional cost on them, which could impact the cost to the individuals.
Mr. Bailey?
What the designation process does and what the waiver process does is level the playing field. All right, everybody would be paying the $2. The Republic already pays the $2 entering the landfill, and all the people hauling waste out of our county would be paying $2.
And they currently aren't.
And they currently are
But
not.
they are paying a destination fee or a tipping fee to the county that they are traveling to.
Yes. And not one district in the state of Ohio does not collect fees on their waste from their generated waste leaving their county. Everybody, some way, and I gave you that sheet, has a fee collection system, collect money on the waste leaving the county.
Even for a destination fee where it's going to a privately owned landfill?
Yes, sir, they do.
Okay, because that's the information I'm being told is not correct. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to look into this, Keith.
Well, I would take the expertise of our director, and he serves on all the state committees.
Yeah. Well, I'm just told that the state is actually looking at changing how this is done as well.
The director of the EPA, Tom, because I've been through all those meetings, just as an insight, he has been proposing, and it hasn't been staff-driven either.
Right.
It has been driven by the director of the EPA, and we're having discussions at the state level with him. And we're hoping he doesn't take us down to 8 districts, but which he has since said that is just his discussion points.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm comfortable going with the waiver. That's how it's done. We're losing $45,000 a year. I mean, that's almost the full cost of the environmental deputy. We've already gotten the discretionary account back because we paid for the collection center. Again, Tom, you met with the veterans last week. I didn't. We have $75,000 there currently. I mean, if we take a hit to our accounts and the economy hasn't bounced back all the way, we're no longer generating 3.2 or 3.3 million. We've changed the plan. We're collecting less tipping fees. We're going to be able to perform less services, and this is a standard practice throughout the Lorain County, hadn't done up till now.
Well, it's 45,000 a year, not, you know, if we wait what did you say, 2 weeks? When
2
is
weeks.
our evening meeting?
It's February 6th.
February
isn't it,
6th. Would you be available for that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way, at least we can air out some of the misinformation that's going around, and everybody will feel more confident once they know all the facts. So I'm not opposed to waiting for 2 weeks to let everybody understand the
And I would
proposal.
encourage the commissioners, if they wish to, contact the deputy chief at the Ohio EPA, and she'll be able to clarify these issues for you.
Yeah.
But this is nothing new. This is nothing new that the policy committee is proposing here. This is something that goes on all over the state of Ohio.
Right, and I'm in agreement, and I'm in favor of it to this point, but if we can give the opportunity for the residents to hear, especially the township trustees and things, that they understand what's going on.
Well, and their concern is that they could actually, it could increase their yearly bill by $120. So, again, I think it is a good thing to wait and then allow the trustees to address the concerns to us.
Yeah, because I had a phone call after last week's meeting. We had a public hearing, and one of the township trustees had mentioned, you know, that he couldn't stay because it was a long meeting. So just to give people that did want to have an opportunity to talk about it. I know we had a public hearing, but a lot of people couldn't stay.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second to table this for 2 weeks, which would be February 6th. We have our building department public hearing at 6, so we'll.
No, it would be February 3rd, well.
February
Well,
6th?
February 6th is just our public hearing for the
Right, that would
building
be
department.
1 week. Right, that is the,
Okay, February 27th is our first actual night meeting though, which is Straw Hag is already scheduled that night.
right, I'm looking at tabling it to, well, unless
The
you want
ones
to have a.
after the evening
Yeah.
meeting?
So the
13th.
13th?
The 13th.
For a daytime meeting.
Right.
regular
Correct.
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that way we can just hear it, you know, and if they have any comments during the public hearing, we can bring it up as well in our meeting.
Well, it'll just be on the agenda, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so February 13th at our regular scheduled meeting at 9:30.
So skip over the second.
Mr. Williams?
Number 20.
Yep.
Ms.
Yes.
Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kalo?
No.
And then repeal resolution 10284 adopted April 21st, 2010, approving the issuance of waivers from designation pursuant to a standard form of waiver agreement.
The two going
We
hand
have
in
to-
hand,
So
so.
you just got to give it,
yeah,
pull this.
A motion to table it for 2 weeks.
To the 13th.
So
February
2/13 at
Yeah,
9:30.
February 13th.
That's what you want to do, right?
Yes,
Is that
please.
a second?
Second.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kalo?
Yes.
Okay. Under the transit, request the auditor to certify total current tax valuation of the county and dollar amounts of revenue that would be generated for 5 years for transit for .040 mils.
Okay, do we want to go into Mr. Cordez first, or do you need a motion ahead of time?
A motion to discussion.
A motion, okay, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Cordez.
Well, as you know, for some time, I've been talking about the need for a dedicated revenue source for transit. As the fortunes of the general fund have declined, so has its ability to provide support to transit. As such, we've been unable to generate enough local dollars to match federal dollars, which bring more taxes that leave this community by way of state and federal payments to return for services. Unless we at least try to get a dedicated revenue stream, which will be doubled, if not more, because the minimum we get is 50 cents for certain matching from FTA and up to 80% on some dollars, we're not going to be able to continue very far into the future with any kind of reasonable public transit in Lorain County. Struggling right now, the board has done what they can. We're trying to make ends meet, but you know the condition that we're in at transit. We've been having this dialogue for a year or two, and I have sampled all of you over the last few months, and we decided to try to put a very, very small levy before the taxpayers to see if they will support this. A .40 raises about $250,000 a year, and that's about $2 a household. There's about 125,000 households in Lorain County, and it's about $2 a household, which will turn into $4 when we, or more when we match it with various funding streams that we can access, and to provide a ride to those in need. We don't have any convenient ridership. We have people that are desperate to get from point A to point B, and we're hoping that people see the need to support their community and those people in the community that have no other resources, so that we can start moving transit back into a positive direction. That's really all I have to say on it.
Do we have a breakdown of the numbers, Mr. Cordez?
Well, I thought we had a list, a breakdown of what numbers before I...
The .40, and I mean, we have to go through certification with the...
Lisa,
okay,
you bring...
Jerry's looking ready to say something.
Lisa's
Go ahead,
here
Mr.
too.
Innes.
Well, that's what we're doing now. We were making
Right.
a request to the auditor to
Certify,
the
correct.
amount.
But I didn't know if we had different dollar amounts as we've done in the past.
We did.
Did you make
I ran
extra
a...
copies?
Yeah, you got that copy, right?
I have my copy. Yeah, I forgot to. That was one thing I forgot to copy this morning.
And I spoke with Mr.
Good,
Cordez
good,
yesterday, but he
Yep.
didn't realize the filing deadline is now 90
What happens
days prior to the election instead of 75 in the past. That's why this is
Yeah.
coming up today.
I do have a question, because we talked about this, and one of the things that came up was with the elections in November, you know, the township's not passing the police district for
Okay.
safety.
Okay.
And right now, transit doesn't go out into the rural areas.
It doesn't.
So the residents may not see this as a benefit for them. So it's trying to do a more focused approach where we could actually help the individual where the ridership is needed, like in Lorain, Elyria, Oberlin.
I remember the conversation.
And then possibly doing a approach where we could pick the areas where the it would be put on the ballot and have it passed, so we could focus the dollars, the revenue dollars, to go into those areas to increase ridership. So if it would pass in the city of Lorain, we would be able to put so much revenue in there to have more of a transit route in the city of Lorain or Elyria or whatever community would pass it.
Well, they have that ability, actually, Tom. Each community could put a ballot issue on,
Right.
provide transit within their community, and partner with us, like Avon Lake had done in the past, and Vermillion has done, and Oberlin has done. We've tried that avenue over the years, meeting with the city councils, hasn't worked real well.
Well, Mr. Cortez was going to look to see if the county could actually focus in on that. And I don't know if that,
Like, not make it a countywide
not make it a
issue.
countywide, but it
just-
would, right.
different cities within the county that would more than likely use it more than others.
Correct. So if the city of Lorain would pass it, we would make sure that that revenue would go to routes in the city of Lorain.
Jerry, is that something that we could do?
We currently have a county transit authority. In order to reduce the district, we would have to form a regional counting transit district and then only implement the tax in those areas.
That's why in the past when we had discussed that, we had met with city councils and previous administrations, that if they would find a way to do funding, then we could direct that and the match money back towards their communities like we've done in Vermilion and Oberlin and Avon Lake.
Yeah.
So that's why we're restricted, because we are a county-wide system. So
right now we have to keep uniformity of tax throughout
correct.
the district.
Okay.
So we have to change the district.
Well, and not knowing the answer, I'll ask the question. What would it take in order to do that?
Well, I'm glad Jerry answered the question. We did look at it a couple months ago. I don't think we circled around and had the conclusion of those conversations, but we did challenge ourselves with that question, which a lot was going on. What would it take to do that? More than likely, a complete redistricting of parts of the county and then a recertification on the FTA. And then we would have to more than likely have an opt-in from those jurisdictions to be in the district. So we're looking at a change in designation, look at possibly a change in governance, and also we would need to start working to have each one of those entities agree mostly through council, I would assume, to join that region. It could be quite a process. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but it could be a lengthy chore, while at the same time still maintaining what we have, so that we don't lose our designation with the FTA, which brings funds here. We still match quite a few dollars to bring in the transit here.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue. We do need a transit system in certain areas for individuals to get to work and to get to doctor's appointment. We know that it's normally the larger cities that need that help.
Oh, Commissioner, you're right on track. It's all in the urban. It's our
ridership.
Yeah.
Even when we ran the route to Wellington out of Oberlin and stuff, it was sparsely. But the thing that made it available at that point is when we ran at 58, it opened up the dial-a-ride for the people who really needed it. That was the advantage. So you're getting it on one side. You're not getting it on the public transit running buses, but it opened up the dial-a-ride to the folks who needed it.
At one time, we were doing dial-a-ride at every place in this county.
Correct. That's the advantage, because they allow that under the code.
Yeah, the difficult part of with the levy, though, is getting individuals to see that it's going to be beneficial to them.
Without a doubt.
Somebody
All
in
taxes
Rochester is going to look at it that, it's probably not a benefit for their community. So,
Well, you never know unless you ask. I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm looking at these numbers Jimmy just gave us, anywhere from a .04 mils generating $246,000, which if you figure, let's say we end up at 70% of the money back to us as a match. I mean, we bring in our 300,000 plus, puts us, $500,000 plus in the system versus what we're doing now.
I put a very, very small amount on there to make a very small ask of the taxpayers of Lorain County to at least think about moving this county forward. We're the 9th largest county in the state of Ohio, and we have no dedicated revenue for mass transit, and we actually, quite frankly, have a pitiful mass transit system.
Well, we lose a ton of money. I sit on the WAC, well, Commissioner Williams does too, but involved over the years.
You need money to get that
money that doesn't come here just for fuel. I mean, 1 year alone, Lake Train, which is Lake County, smaller than us, got $90,000 in fuel money for free.
Right. We need
those
to be,
are the dollars you're not
and there's other funds that we're not accessing.
Right.
We need to have more service, and we need to have some revenue to be able to get into more funding streams. They don't always ask you to bring a lot, but they do ask you to bring some money, which indicates that you have skin in the game and that you're committed to those services. The talk I had with you guys off and on last year was, we're either going to try to get back in the game, or we're going to have to seriously discuss getting out of the game. But look at where we're at. We're the 9th largest county in the state of Ohio. Look at where our transit's at. And the other thing is, quite frankly, we need to start banging on the state. What is Ohio, the 7th largest state or something like that? And they're 38th in transit funding.
I think we're less than that, actually.
Actually less than number 38.
Yes.
So most states return more money to their mass transit systems and their local mass transit systems to support the objectives. I could tell you from sitting on the WIB board that we hear from employers that have entry-level jobs, and every place has a couple entry-level jobs or more. They can't get employees because they can't get them to work consistently.
Correct. That's one of our major issues through the workforce development.
We used to have up on, I think it was Pin Oak Parkway, there was a couple employers up there that we used to.
The brake company that went to Chicago.
We used to run a line through there, and a bulk of those employees came out of Lorain, and they rode the bus up there. And once we cut back transit, eventually most of those employees lost their ability to go to work, lost their jobs. Felt sorry for them, but there was no money to run the system. I can give you stories, and I'm sure other people can come up and say, well, why we bother doing it, and everybody has their opinions on it. But with the realities of life, it's time to see if the community would like to give a hand up to their fellow residents that are in need.
I think if we go with the minimum one, the .040, I think that's responsible, giving it an opportunity for the voters to look at where they want to see transit go to. I mean, we've done what we can with the dollars we've had allowed, but we've been through the shortfalls and the cuts and trying to still stay in the game, but we're missing out on a ton of opportunity.
Remember, one time this, less than a decade ago, this board was giving $1.2 million to transit. In the last 2 years, I've been operating on $50,000, and then of course you gave us a stipend in the fall that we're working with. So we're not even asking for the $1.2 million. I think that's too much to ask of the taxpayers too quickly. We're asking for a little bit, and we've got to go prove ourselves with that little bit and see what we can do. That's really, I don't have much more to say, and I think it speaks for itself. And I agree with Commissioner Williams that the township sometimes struggle to see the need for that service, and I understand why, but we are one community.
Right. And I just think the opportunity to have the dial ride back out there, I'd love to have that Route 58 run going out there, and then that airport run, then we could talk about maybe a Cleveland run off of the airport run following the far side. Yeah, Commissioner Williams suggested coming off of the Lorain Road area.
Commissioner Williams is right on that. I drove that lot after he discussed it with me, and there's quite a few residents there. A few years ago, we could have got land on the very cheap in that whole section down by 480, Route 10, and the Turnpike, and put in a park and ride. And we could have put it in with 95% federal dollars. We just didn't have any local match dollars to put service down there. Today, the land down there is booming. A premium plus, and so that opportunity was missed too. But you can see that Cuyahoga put a nice big park and ride right down the road by Great Northern there, and that park and ride's packed all the time. So
with Lorain County residents.
Right.
Well, see, and we may not need to run all the way downtown if we can get consistent service.
We can do the connector to RTA because
exactly.
Joe Calabrese would love to do that. I talk to him probably once a month. That we talk about finding a way to improve Lorain County transit, and they're willing to partner with us.
But we have to have consistent service to
Correct.
be able to do that, and so there's some opportunities. Now I got to tell you, I don't want to think that $250,000 is going to solve all the problems of transit and fix all of those issues or create all of those opportunities. It's just a start in that direction. There's other needs, but this will move the pendulum back towards progressing rather than digressing with public transit in Lorain County.
Yeah, this would be used for additional routes. It's not going to be used to offset the costs that are currently going on as far as the fees that individuals are paying. Correct?
I think that this is going to be operating costs, correct,
okay.
with routes. We're not going to add any more employees. We're not going to, we're running transit with one employee. So we're going to put this directly in trying to get services out there, and also use some of this match money to look at issues about a possible park and ride in a key location and see what we can do with that connector route. But I can tell you, without any funding, we're just not going to be able to accomplish anything. We are missing the opportunity on quite a bit of money here, and not to mention that I don't think the board's going to have additional resources to provide for transit anytime in the near future.
Just curious, have you had any talks with RTA to see what they would be willing to come in?
Yes.
And, okay, what?
1%
I know 1% sales tax, but they have.
They want us to.
minimum?
That's what they want, to come in and make it a true regional system, and they'd like to expand. They'd like a 1% sales tax.
You
would
give me
generate
a
$30 million.
You give me a 1% sales tax, and I'll pick you up at your door.
Yeah, it'll be limo service.
I mean, it's
Well, that's what they do in Cuyahoga County, and the thinking
Right.
is they can't do less in Lorain County than they would do in Cuyahoga County. So, and I'm sure we could negotiate that down, but still they're talking the millions of dollars. We're asking for $250,000 to try and
Commissioner,
drive our transit.
the transit in Cuyahoga County is a $300 million operation. $300 million. I'm not, we're talking about something that's not very expensive and may give some practical application. Let me also suggest that I don't know if anybody wants to see transit completely out of business going forward. And there's not one transit system that I'm aware of anywhere in the country that doesn't have additional revenue streams to help offset the costs. That are the best ones get close to break even, but most of them have sales tax, property levies, assistance from different various sources. We've only had the generosity of the Board of Commissioners from the general fund over the years. And so this is never going to be, I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's going to break even, or we're going to get a service, and once it's running, it's going to make money. No, it's not. It's always going to lose money.
It's transit.
I want to be honest with you right up front about that before, people think that this is going to solve those problems. It's not going to solve those problems. And obviously, costs are going to continue to accelerate into the future, so we'll be dealing with that.
Are we ready to call for a vote on this? Board, any more comments? No. Madam Clerk?
Well, one thing, can I back up for a minute?
Sure.
What is the code, Jerry?
Yeah, we have to do this under revised code 5705.19Q.
Okay.
Now, Commissioners, that's only for .40. We're only asking for that. If you think that you want to...
.040.
.040.
For 5 years.
You have the scenarios, if you want to certify 1, 2, or 3 different numbers, you can X from now, and then you can make the decision on what you want to send to the ballot next week. I started with the .040, but you may want to ask. You may want to ask. You may want to get the certification for a couple of those. Take the week, think about it, and then you'll have some options next week. Your choice.
I would make a recommendation that we go with the lowest one. I think this is going to be a hard sell.
I agree.
And go
I think
anything higher, I think it's going to just cause it to fail.
Let's start and take a bite at the apple and see what happens, and start with the minimum.
And before we take the vote, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask Mr. Cortez. That way, everyone knows the answer. If we pass the .040 mils, and next year we want to go to the .060 mils, or in a few years, what would be required?
We would put it back to the voters.
Right. That's a replacement, right?
Yeah. I just want people to know that way they don't think that we go with the lowest one and then it could be increased later by the board's decision. So
no, anything.
No, we would
go back to the voters.
We would put it back.
Replacement.
Right.
Back to
similar to what we did with 911.
Correct.
Let me say a couple other things before you vote. Lately, the trend has been permanent levies. We've seen that on a lot of organizations coming in here, or many years on levies. We're asking for a minimum, and we're doing it for 5 years.
Correct.
And I'm not telling you that in 3 years we may not be back talking about a .60 or a .50 or maybe wanting to raise that. We have to have a starting point, and we're asking the taxpayers for a minimum, and we're telling them how long it's for. So we have to prove ourselves every time.
Correct. That's what I like. I like anytime you do basically a temporary.
Yes.
That's basically what it is. It's a temporary tax.
If you don't do your job, then. Madam Clerk?
Okay. Request auditor, I'm just going to read it just for clarification. Request auditor certified total current tax valuation of the county and dollar amount of revenue that would be generated for 5 years for Lorain County transfer for .040 mils pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.19Q. Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. President, just so everybody understands, this is just a request from the auditor to certify the amount. We'll have to come back next week if commissioners want to have the issue put on the ballot.
Right, I'm sure we'll have input in the next week from the public on it also.
Okay, do we want to go to our public hearing, or we just want to go through this?
Yeah, we can.
Hey, we have a lot of
Do our
people
public
waiting here.
hearing.
We're already half
Yeah,
hour
sorry.
past.
Let me grab my stuff. Madam Clerk?
Today is the public hearing on the petition request of Brighton Township trustees to clean or repair approximately 1,080 linear feet of failed tile from roadway to field tile outlet from Gore Orphanage Road, Culvert 779, south of State Route 18, Brighton Township. In accordance with Section 6131.07 of the Law Revise Code, notice is hereby given of the petition filed. The construction of the improvement is necessary and will be conducive to the public welfare. The following is the course and termini of said proposed improvement, to wit, commencing north of State Route 18 on Gore Orphanage Road from roadway to field tile. All cost of engineering, construction, and future maintenance will be assessed to the benefit parcels of land. The following is the nature of the work petitioned for: cleaning of and or removal of all obstructions, including but not limited to silt, debris, log jams, and drift from the existing ditch to the course and termini. December 20, 2012, the engineer reviewed the petition and recommended the petition to read: clearing and grubbing of approximately 1,080 linear feet of failed tile line, construct ditch by removing 2 to 3 feet of spoils and old tile from roadway to field tile, dipping and cleaning a ditch approximately 2-foot bottom with 2 one-side slopes, nature work, dipping and cleaning of ditch where failed tile exists. The estimated project cost is, I don't think that's right. Wait a minute. I think I left out a number. Sorry. Yeah, well, it is, yes. $15,215, and estimated construction cost is $11,490 for a total of 58.16 acres in the watershed. Resolution 12790 adopted December 12th, scheduled the viewing on January 15, 2013 at 10 a.m. and the hearing today. Notice was in the Chronicle on January 4th and 11th. 12 property owners were notified on December 28th by regular mail. 2 were returned and notified in the second publication. January 24th, the engineer stated after the viewing, Mr. Wacker identified an existing 12-inch tile that crosses his property from the south side of State Route 18 to Gore Orphanage Road. The schedule of owners has changed, with 9 new property owners being added to the watershed. The cost estimate has not changed. I have not sent the new 9 owners any letters because it was late and the hearing was today, so we would have to go with the hearing today and then just determine what's next.
Don't have to do.
We don't have to notify those 9 additional owners in the watershed prior?
Yeah, we will, but this was already scheduled, so we have to continue with what's
Correct.
today, and then the additional 9 will have to be notified. All of them will have to be
We
notified.
can
again.
notify the 9.
So it's basically an amended petition at this point, or will be an amended petition.
Are we allowed to take testimony while they're not here and haven't provided an opportunity
Yes,
to be
because
here?
it's based upon what was
No, I believe if the,
submitted.
with the amended petition, we would have to
Okay,
have 2
here's-
hearings
yeah,
for
here's-
that
Yes,
amendment.
correct.
So-
Yeah, here's,
Basically, we're going to move this and then let anybody who wants to testify to that.
Right.
you can't, I don't think you
We
can
can't
take
whatsoever?
testimony.
No,
No.
not if we're going to add 9 new people.
Because those people have a right to be here, to hear that testimony and rebut that testimony. Right?
Oh, because there are 9 new adding to the
Right.
watershed.
Right, so
If the
we,
board
we,
accepts the
okay.
new
you can
amended-
modify the petition, notify the landowners, and then you gotta continue the hearing. No testimony, no moving forward until they have the fair opportunity to be here. And that's unfortunate, because I see a lot of folks, I think there's several folks here for this
But
hearing.
it's all depending on if you guys want to accept this new, that's why I said, you can accept it and go with the hearing, not accept it and go with the hearing today, or you can add the
Oh,
nine.
not accepted, we could ignore. So I
'Cause it's
still have to
amended
have the
based upon
public
the
hearing.
review.
We'll swear people in. The commissioner can speak first that it's going to have 9 new landowners part of it. We'd like to continue the hearing, and that would be the end of it. No swearing in of testimony.
Correct.
Correct, that's my
Correct.
process.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we are going to open the public hearing. We're not going to swear anyone in to give testimony, because what has happened is we've had 9 more landowners come in to amend the petition. So I would ask,
Well, it's not 9 new people that have amended it, it is based upon the engineer's recommendation upon the
9
reviewing
additional
that you
parcels
had.
are in the
9
watershed.
additional
Correct,
parcels
okay.
added
Right,
to it.
we are, just to kind of clarify, because that came up last week, we cannot unilaterally amend the petition, but we can change the route of it. So
Right.
we are in essence changing the route of this improvement.
Right. So I am just going to ask for a motion to continue the hearing at this point.
Well, have you
To a
opened
date
it?
certain.
Is it open?
I just opened the meeting.
Okay.
And since we have this new, larger swath for the ditch, I'm going to ask for a motion to continue the hearing.
Correct.
I would need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I have a question, though. Did 9 more people get added because we are extending the length of what we're going to be cleaning out?
Now, you can
Maybe
take,
we want the
you can
engineers
talk
to
to Wayne
explain
on that.
exactly
That
what
you
they
can talk
wanted to
about.
do.
Okay.
Why
Wayne?
the additional 9 parcels are in, but you just can't take pro and con testimony.
you
You
can't
can,
take
you
any
can talk about
testimony.
what needs to be modified here.
Okay, good, because I was hoping we were going to go all the way to the railroad track, so.
So we have a motion, a second.
There was
Correct,
a-
and we
there was-
discussed
Discussion,
All right.
yes.
Hi, Wayne.
Wayne Mileti, County Engineer's Office. There was a tile across the road that it went under 18 that we did not have any record of. And Mr. Wacker pointed it out, so it crosses his property, which in turn drains some of the north side and picks up like 5 houses on the south. So we have to include those because it's taking the water, so that's what we had to do.
And was there any discussion on going north of Peck Wadsworth also with the discussions that were had there?
That, we looked into that, and that's in good operating
It
condition
is,
right
okay,
now.
I know we discussion points.
There's no dam, that was all, I don't know what happened, but it's been all cleared up.
Okay, any other questions from the
It's
board?
wide open now, so. Other issues?
Not for Mr.
Well, we won't have
Okay.
any more. Just
No,
engineers.
actually, to you guys, I'm just curious, on the next public hearing for this would be when?
All right, we've gotta
Well,
get to
there's a
date.
note on the bottom. We could do
It
it
gives our
within
different dates.
2 to 4 weeks. We could schedule the first one on the 13th at 10:30, or we could schedule one on our third Tuesday meeting and just have this for the public hearing, which is 2/19 at 9:30, because I believe that to do it on the Straw Hag Ditch Night, I mean, that's just gonna be too much. Or you can
219,
expand
my
it
solid
more.
waste meeting, though? I think that's my solid waste Keith left.
Yeah.
I don't have my calendar, and I don't have Tony, so I don't know.
Hold on.
Right on.
No, your solid waste is on 2/12.
2/12?
Yes.
I would be comfortable with that Tuesday meeting just to handle the ditch issue
At 9:30?
at 9:30.
Whatever.
Yeah. What would you consider about doing one in the evening, since people came by, I don't know if they're going to have to take off work again for that? Doesn't matter? Okay, 9:30 would
Yeah,
be fine
9:30.
then.
It's not a large one. Well, first, motion on the floor to continue the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay.
So this hearing will be rescheduled to 2/19 Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. here.
Would you send me an email to that regard, please?
I will, and then
Thank you.
the
Okay.
additional property, everybody will be notified again.
Oh, they
Okay,
will,
everybody,
these
including
guys
the
will be
9
notified
parcels.
again?
Okay.
Because,
You said you will send that out, you'll send it out in Outlook too?
yes, if I can
Thank you.
remember all this, Tom, I will do that.
If you need
But
help
no, I
with it,
will.
let me know.
I will.
Yeah, I'm working on Outlook 03. Okay, thank you very much. Now I need to close the public hearing, or did we do that with the motion? No, we just moved it.
No, we just
Now we're closed.
continued. We didn't even
We're
We're
not
not
going to
open
close,
the
just to
hearing. We
continue,
just
so we're done.
continued it.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Commissioner, do you want me to just kind of
You want to give an
explain what
update?
we did? Just
Before
so
you
every-
guys leave, our county prosecutor will give an update on the process.
Just so you understand what happened here, because they found some drain tile that they were unaware of, we need to expand the length of the project to include other areas and 9 other people. Those people haven't been notified of this hearing, so in order that everybody has the fair opportunity to be heard, we can't take testimony from you today. We have to continue the whole thing. So I hope you understand what happened.
We'll give you a couple minutes if you guys want to leave before we restart our commissioners meeting. Thank you very much.
No.
Can I provide an informational statement to the board or the commissioners?
We're going to have, we're going to
Finish
go
our
back to
meeting, you
regular
stay for
meeting.
public comments, sir.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
I didn't know, I thought maybe you guys were gonna wrap up.
As long as it's not testimony in regards to the ditch.
No, nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Give them a couple minutes to leave. People are leaving. No, 19.
2/19.
19th to 19th?
Sorry, I won't be
Is that a
there either.
Tuesday?
could do Skype. I could set up at home and we could do Skype. Make sure you guys are all okay here. Yeah, that's why I did these Tuesday meetings, so then you guys could just put that out of the way.
It counts as an extra meeting for us, because
Yes, it
you
does.
move one during the fair, so
Yeah.
those are good.
Yeah.
Are you folks done in back there? I see you talking, so we can continue our meeting. Wayne?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Under the engineer, authorize 25% freeze-thaw load limit on various county roads in Carlisle Township, the thaw and moisture period, in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 5577.07, effective February 1st through May 1st, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Authorize 25% freeze-thaw load limit on various township roads in Eaton Township, the thaw and moisture period, in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 5577.07, effective February 1st through May 1st, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Award contract to Gregory Trucking, Inc., Elyria, in the amount of $100,925 for the limestone aggregate for Highway Department. 4 bids were received on January 22nd, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, and will be paid from the MVGT Supplies Materials account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Under the Sheriff, approve and enter a renewal inmate food service agreement with Airmark, effective February 1st, 2013 through January 31st, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Request the auditor to certify total current tax valuation of the county and dollar amount of revenue that would be generated for 5 years for Drug Task Force 070, 075, and 080 mils.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Cordez?
Yes.
And probably the sheriff I see is here, and Chief Cavanaugh?
Yes, I've asked them both to be here. This is dialogue that we've had. Let me briefly indicate that, for a reference point, that we currently have a perpetual levy that has been supplying some funds to the, what was known as the MEG Unit Crime Task Force and the Crime Lab. Each one of them receive a portion of that funding, and that levy has not changed in, I was there before I came to the county, and it's 25 or 30 years.
It
And
currently raises about $500,000 a year for those services.
closer to the mid 400s, but
I
half
thought it
million's
was-
fine.
And
And
that was 501 when we checked that today.
has it 501 now?
Last year.
Last year?
$501,000, Jim.
Okay. Will it bring in 500 this year?
It'll go down because the property values went down, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm cutting hairs. I apologize.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I just
The,
want to be current as to what was last year's.
things at the crime lab are not good. There's not enough money there, but those are a problem we're going to have to tackle and work on in the future. But right now, we all know that there's a significant problem with drug activity in Lorain County. The prosecutor's been over several times to see us and has spoken to us about his view forward and what's going on.
The coroner.
The coroner. And meanwhile, the funding for the Drug Task Force has dried up in federal grants and state grants and Homeland Security funds and et cetera, and it continues to dwindle while a need for the resource continues to grow. So I've had this dialogue with the folks out at the Drug Task Force, and decided to put an initiative before you. They're here to talk about the need for this. In fact, Dennis was out at SWAT training today, so he looks ready to go. But they're here to answer any questions you have, and they've been really great partners. And of course, we want to move forward, and there's a need in this community. So you give them an opportunity, I think.
Sheriff or chief or both or
Yeah.
either or, whoever would like to address us.
While you're coming up, I'm going to ask you a question because it's something that's going on in the county. And Dennis, we've talked about this, the heroin issue
Yes.
that's going on, and how this levy would help.
Well, tremendously. Right about now, probably about 87% of our investigations is either prescription drugs or heroin addiction. As you're all well aware, if you talk to Doc Evans, we had over 60 overdose deaths. Quite a few. There's a combination of both of those and other things that are in their systems. it certainly has an impact on the whole community, because most of these burglaries and everything else to support their habits are from heroin users. That's what we've found here most recently out in the townships. Those that have been arrested, they've all had some prior, or majority of them have had the prior, and that holds true in Lorain and Elyria too. So it's an overall epidemic that's out there. Our county's getting hit pretty hard. Like I said, there's over 60 overdose deaths as compared to 22 the previous 2 years. So it's on the rise. It's through our whole state, and Lorain County is not unique to that problem, but it certainly is impacting us pretty much. There's a consortium of social agencies and ourselves and Lorain Police Department are trying to address some of those issues. Obviously, it's a pretty big magnitude. Enforcement is just one part of that, but there's some other entities that are trying to get involved. But right now, we're actually down 3 officers from what we have been operating. And I think when I talked to Dave O'Connor today, he thought $335,000 would be generated. That would be our percentage for this 2013. And as Jim had said, all the federal money is drying up. I'm getting like 48% less in our JAG funding. And if we get $90,000 out of that a year now, we're lucky, and we're doing better than some agencies are. So that's where we're at. I've cut our budget way down. It's just a little over $1 million, and whatever we can save, we can save. So it's pretty tough. Sheriff, did you have anything else to add to that? Okay, sure. Do you have any other questions on the heroin? No.
Well, I know Coroner Evans is working on the whole Narcan and getting that.
Right, that's true.
And to save these people prior to them becoming his customers or constituents.
Absolutely.
So, it's a major problem. It's just not in the inner city. It is everywhere.
Yes.
We're quadrupling the amount,
Yeah, our investigations, they're just not, they're in every aspect of this county, every township, every rural community, every city. It's Avon Lake, Vermilion, to Rochester, to Huntington, to Columbia. It's not unique to just one location anymore. So,
and the federal government's defunding the war on drugs, it seems like, because we're getting less dollars to deal with the issues. So.
Yeah, and actually from the Task Force Commanders Association I belong to throughout the state, our state officials were telling us that they're probably going to drop another 8.1% on federal funding for the drug, for any type of JAG funding, and that may hold consistent for 4 years. So unless they change something in Washington, that's the general theme. So, and that's how everything is being governed and how the grants are being approved and money is being divided up amongst everyone. So it's
and the drug users, what's the largest age of use, I guess?
What type?
What age range is the
well, anyway, I'll tell you what, about 5 years ago when heroin started increasing, we actually had a new age group about 15 to 25, but with all prescription drugs, that everybody, it's all opiate based with some of those like the Oxycontin and the Opanas. That's where a lot of abuse is, and now we're actually finding folks that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that can't afford that 40 milligram pill on the streets or get enough from their prescription, so they're reverting to heroin at $10 a unit dose. So, and once you're on that, obviously, then you have some very serious problems in addition to that. So,
I know all the backlogs, the LCADAs they had us, they're all backlogged on trying to treat.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because there's been cut in funding there also.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the program that you're instituting in the jail now to help the recidivism rate?
There you go. You do better than Battaglia there.
Yeah.
That's something you're talking about with Tom Stuber with LCADA.
Right.
Yeah, we've actually been doing that for several years, and we've increased that now. And it's something that's very much needed. I can tell you probably 90% of the people that are incarcerated either have drug or alcohol problems or a combination of both. So we've been working with Tom Stewart to increase some of those hours to get a little bit more. And you're hoping that when they get out, you get them into these programs that they won't be returning. It's funny you mentioned just yesterday I was in Columbus with Charlie Neff from Lorain County Mental Health Board and Elaine Georges from the Addis Board, and that's exactly, we met with the state senators and all the state reps about funding for their agencies. Obviously, with the governor going to have his budget be coming out here about February 4th, and it has to be passed by July 1st. They were asking for monies for those, which impact on the county jail with mental health issues and also with drug issues. So we were down there trying to explain some of the issues and problems about the drugs. And like the chief deputy brought up, we've been working close with Doc Evans, and we've had 65 deaths in 2012. They more than tripled, 22 in 2011. And that just shows you, and a lot of that is overdose deaths from heroin, because the pill mills are kind of dried up. Scioto County had a big one down there. The Attorney General's worked hard on that. They've shut those down. But now people are going to get the heroin, which is more of a pure form. And like your first high is probably your highest high, and then you don't want anything until except more heroin and another high after that, and it's very addictive. But the county administrator, he explained the process very well. We've been talking several years about this, about the funding dwindling down. We used to have 9 agents at one time, and chief deputy's down to 6 agents now and that obviously covers the whole county. Lorain has their own narcotics bureau, but they're the only one left that has one. And we work in conjunction with their officers on a lot of cases. But Leary no longer has a drug unit over there. So they actually had one officer that was over in our drug agency working with us, and we cover the rest of the whole county here.
The county's relying on the drug task force to do what a lot of them used to do themselves.
Correct. And like the county administrator stated, the current levy is still at the millage that it passed in 1982. Right. Which even the county auditor, when it was Mark Stewart, he'd come over to us and says, how are you guys even surviving on this?
Former county auditor.
Yes, former county. But like the chief deputy explained, a lot of grants we used to be able to get through OCJS and through JAG and everything, they're drying up. I mean, the feds are just slowly drying all the grants up. He still applies, and he does a lot of work for the Ohio criminal justice system of going over their grants. But the de-evaluation of properties in 2012 impacted that too. Like you say, we're expecting less money. I looked at my tax bill today, and obviously that's due February 15th, and I will be paying that. But the anti-drug levy was $2.98. To me, that's really a pittance for what you really need to do in this county for drug. I mean, you're not even paying $6 for the whole year to fund an agency.
50 cents a month.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know you got 3 proposals in front of you, and I actually haven't had time to crunch any numbers, what the .08 mills would bring in. We'd be hoping that would be something that you might look at. And once again, like you had mentioned, it's a 5-year levy, and obviously if we're not doing our jobs and the people pass it, in 5 years they can say, well, we don't think you're doing your job properly, we won't pass it again. But I can tell you with the people that we have out there and with Chief Deputy Cavanaugh, they do a great job with what they have. They actually put in more hours than what they get paid for. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that for the Federal Labor Standards Act, but these guys work very hard over there. And in those kind of cases, you just can't say, well, we're going home now. If it's something, the buy's going on or this is going on, you got to be there to do it. So,
well, I would be comfortable, Sheriff, looking at this, probably taking from the .065 all the way to .080 for certification. We can look at that next week, and you'll be back here, I'm assuming.
Yes, we will come back.
Figure on a number, but I would like to see all 4 of those done, which would generate anywhere from $400,000 to $492,000 towards the drug task force. I mean, it's an issue we have to handle locally. It looks like at this point the feds aren't coming up to help us anymore, and it's a serious issue within our community.
Well, this one here actually does impact the entire county as well. It's something that, we're definitely going to need. I'm going to lead probably to the higher side of it just because I do see the need. And talking with your department, also the coroner, and how many issues are going on. It's definitely something that's going to help you, but it's also going to aid the prosecutor as well, correct, as far as prosecuting some of these?
I'll have some questions, but if I may, I do want to ask the sheriff a question. Sheriff, okay. The Drug Task Force is just a name as opposed to a legal entity, and I want to make sure that's operated totally under your department?
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct. So. It used to be the Metropolitan Enforcement Group.
Right, right, but I just wanted to,
yes,
because that's not a legal entity, so when we put this levy, it'll be, and that's one of the issues we may want to discuss, is it'll be directed to the sheriff to be used for the operation of the drug task force.
Exclusively? Is that what we would language exclusively for the operation?
Well, that was to go with Tom's question. Yep. The statute that we start this under is a general one that covers any criminal justice system similar to the sales tax we did. It can be narrowed to the sheriff and then narrowed to the task force. So I guess that's my question. How narrow do you want this to be?
Yeah. Now, Sheriff, I'm going to, what we had, it was a discussion before, is possibly allowing some of this revenue to go to the prosecutor to actually prosecute drug crimes as well. Would you be opposed to that? Or if you want to take some time and think about that and then let us know too.
Yeah, I'll talk to the Chief Deputy about that.
Because
we've got grants in the past that actually paid for a prosecutor.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
Say, don't you actually?
Yeah, right now you have one.
Right,
Yes.
right now, presently we do.
Yeah, I think they're allowed to take the money and then the money you get, work it with us.
It's still the operations through the county sheriff to the drug task force in their realm or their business, and that would be, I wouldn't get it too convoluted, Tom, just for ballot language, because it still has to be certified on what the language will say, and we don't always get a say in how the language plays out, so the
We'll
more
have
you add,
discussions
the
with
more
the prosecuting
explanation.
commissioner, yes.
Let me suggest this, I was going to say under my comments. We brought this to you late. The timing is such that we really don't start doing business till the middle or the end of January. And when we looked up, it was like, oh my God, this is all going to be done by when? And the sheriff didn't even know, we had the talks, but I called yesterday, it's going to be on the agenda, and we didn't want to miss the window of opportunity in the May primary. So there's not been a lot of work on the ballot language yet. There's a few things that got to be teased out and thought about, but this is a placeholder right now. You'll make the decision
Next Wednesday.
next Wednesday, so there'll be some additional information for you by Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate
This-
the commissioners looking at it, and the county administrator worked very hard on this with the prosecutor. We appreciate what he's done.
The heroin and opium, that's, comes from like the Middle East, doesn't it? Like Afghanistan or somewhere? And it just, to me, it seems like a war on our soil against our youth. You know, like they're a terrorist attack on our youth. That's what I look at it as. I mean, these are our kids that could be, you know, fighting in our wars and stuff, and they're dying, you know, and it's so sad. And we need to put some money towards it to stop this.
And it's not just kids anymore.
Right, it's not just kids,
the
it's-
entire demographics of Lorain County.
Yeah, it's awful. It's everywhere.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jerry, would you like to help the clerk on what resolution we need the number there? Because I know she's going
Right.
to ask the question.
Right,
I have it
so,
written down, but let's see if he's written down.
Oh, yeah, you're going to double check Jerry Innes.
well, for purposes of this resolution, until we do it next week, Teresa, let's just put that for enforcement of drug laws. Okay, just for this resolution.
For Lorain County Sheriff.
No, just for the purpose of
drug law?
enforcement. of
Okay.
drug.
Okay, and I need to amend my resolution because I'd like to include everywhere from the .065 to the .080.
Second
mills.
as amended.
Further discussion.
Let me give you the numbers. Revised Code Section 5705.19 L and 307.45.
45A1.
Let's just leave it at .45A. You know, as a general criminal justice services, and then we'll narrow it down next week. I'll get together with you on that.
For 5 years, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Cortez, County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With regard to the levies, thank you to the board for dealing with this as a short fuse notice. Also, thank you to Teresa, who I put a couple stunned looks on her face when I said we were going to get this done yesterday, for pulling hard on this issue.
Don't forget Lisa, she had to run all the numbers.
Well, I'm not done yet. Thank you to Lisa and all the folks that had a hand in this, but I want to also point out that we asked and received a favor from the auditor's office to do this certification in a very, very rapid turnaround. They have to certify this, get it back up to us, then we have to vote on it and have to certify it again. We have to have it to the Board of Elections by the end of the day on Wednesday next week.
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Well, that's the end of the day at 4 p.m. So the amount of collaboration and cooperation that was needed here was significant. and I want them to understand that we're appreciative. The auditor's office usually doesn't turn this around this quickly. They have time to look it over, and it usually takes a few weeks. And we asked, and they said okay. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank the clerk, who won't be with us next Wednesday. So we got to sort this all out and leave a good trail for Janice next week to make sure that we can move forward on all of this. But we'll get it all prepped out. So thanks for taking a look at that. And thanks for everybody that put a lot of effort into this so that we can at least ask their taxpayers to improve their community. The other thing is, Commissioner Kokoski, you probably need to sign this on the 911 board. I have your report here that's due to the state for the new wireless. It's really interesting. I was reviewing it, and I was looking through some numbers again this morning. We anticipate 150,000 calls at the center next year. That is hugely significant, and we're anticipating 99,000 of those from cellular service. We continue to see a decrease in the landline-based calls, while we're seeing more than exponentially, almost a 3 times increase. For every landline we lose, we get 3 more cellular calls. That's because people see an accident, and instead of somebody rushing to a phone and getting 1 call, you get 5 people on the side of the road calling in the same situation to the 911 center. 150,000 calls. That's a lot of calls. So things are working well out at 911. We have some plans that we're going to unveil for you in the coming weeks to discuss further. New collaborations with both the Sheriff's Department and some local police jurisdictions. And Commissioner Williams and myself had some significant discussion with one of our villages, a small city, with the potential for moving to the next level of cooperation there. So it's going to be an exciting year at 911, and I'll get this report over before you leave today so you can sign it as the chair of the 911 committee, and we'll get it down to the state for you.
Thank you.
Other than that, that concludes my comments this morning, except to say I apologize for not having a jacket on. I had a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction this morning. I'm not changing our usual habit of appropriate attire for these meetings. Thank you.
I threw some Gatorade on him.
What, do you win something? Did he win something?
No, we were coming in the building together when he had his little mishap.
It did involve Gatorade in my jacket, and so it was. We'll just kind of leave it at that. Thank you.
Mr. Ennis, Assistant County Prosecutor.
I think you're the one client I have that I don't need an executive session with this week.
Wow.
I have no report, Commissioner.
Commissioner's report.
Well, we were talking about drugs earlier. Our collection, or our solid waste department, is going to be doing a medication collection on Saturday, April 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For those of you that are here, you can see that under board correspondence on our agendas. But I will have Hal put these up at the end of our meeting so people can see where to drop these off. And then Keith Bailey, who's our director, told me that we are going to have year-round collections very soon. So there won't be just like a once or twice a year thing. They'll be available for drop-offs at all times. We're also going to have a shred day, which is April 20th and October 19th from 9 to noon at our collection center at 540 South Abbey Road. So if you want to get your paper shredded, that's where you'll go. All you need is an ID showing that you are a Lorain County resident, and just pull in and they'll take all your paperwork. Last Thursday, we all attended our land bank meeting. We got some great news on the buildings that we're tearing down and what we're going to do with those buildings once we have that land vacated. Monday, I had my first Goodwill Board meeting for the year. And Tuesday, the 3 of us attended the IAC meeting, which the treasurer said he's going to be reducing our revenue estimate by $100,000. So we will have to deappropriate $100,000 from our budget.
We'll take care of that.
We'll take care of that administratively.
Administratively, correct.
Okay, and then yesterday I sat with one of our board members, longtime board member from Children's Services, just to talk about some of the issues that have been arising there with their cut in funding as well. So it's been a busy week, and hope you all have a good weekend.
IAC Land Bank meeting with Children's Services board members. Actually received a letter from Children's Services yesterday. Let's see which pile it's in. Maybe it's on my desk.
Yeah, the one.
They were asking to, I guess at one point, some background on Children's Services, because it is a responsibility of the commissioners can be designated to an agency. They at one point had 9 board members, because they had to have an ad number. Then it went to 13, correct, Teresa?
Yes.
Then it went down to 11. They seem to have a few issues there that I brought up in speaking to the board members I spoke to. Timing of the meetings and attendance. Dr. Hintz actually resigned this past week, so there are currently then 10 members of the Children's Services Board. They sent a letter asking to move it down to 9.
I think it's up to 15 at this point. But
I've
only
got a
11
whole list
show.
of people. Okay, only
They're-
11 showed.
Yeah.
They're asking to, through attrition, take it back down to 9, so they only need 5 to show up to have a quorum because they weren't able to have a few meetings in the past year. I have a list of them that I received from Children's Services with ending dates. Commissioner Williams has an applicant for that. We'll talk to that in personnel, because I know there's a lot of issues in regards to Children's Services out there. The phone calls have become immense. I've been talking to people throughout government on issues I think they should address and giving them my opinions, but again, it's the board to handle with their administration if there's better or new ways of delivering the service model, possibly. So those will be upcoming discussions. I also have 2 other things, though. Received an email, Tom, and you're probably going to have to help me on this, from Linda Ashley in regards to the Hidden Valley sewer rates. We did something a few months ago that empowered Jim Cordes to negotiate for their rates.
Right.
And now we're being told that, and we told them we had no standing, we had no authority.
Right.
I just get this letter that they're asking us not to, please refrain from making any agreements that will affect our rate. And I'm assuming they have legal counsel, is what I heard at a meeting. A resident called me the other day. They have legal counsel?
I'm not aware of them actually going out and getting legal counsel.
Okay, but you were at the meeting, they said.
Yeah, I did attend the meeting,
Okay.
and they didn't hire any legal counsel, so I can't say that they have.
Okay, well, they're talking to legal counsel.
They're talking.
So
and
at this point, we're no longer a part of it, stay out of it totally?
They would like for the commissioners not to engage. But I don't want to say that they're
We're not, though. It was
talking.
Cordes.
Right, Cordes. Well, that's
Not
what.
to have Cordes involved?
Not to have Cordes involved.
Okay.
And as far as the talking, there was an attorney there that came that told him what he could do for them. That was the only thing that went on.
And they basically, if they're going to have legal counsel, they don't want the outside entity being engaged or involved.
Let me give you a quick update.
If you could. Like I said, I caught this off guard, and I'm trying to read the letter, and I'm thinking, this is nothing we talked about here, and I remember all the residents here.
And I spoke to some of those folks just yesterday.
Okay.
We did have a meeting with the mayor. He did agree to an additional meeting, so I was able to bring the parties together. Unfortunately, I was not able to bring the parties any closer to resolution during those discussions. The city is firm on its position at 150% or 130% with a fee. So after about 2 hours, the dialogue was going around and around and around. We weren't just achieving anything other than exhausting ourselves in a circle. So we left that meeting and to go back, and the folks were going to take a look at what their options were. My understanding is that there's no other negotiations going on with the city. They have concluded. The offer is there, and we can take advantage of it on behalf of the residents, or we can not act on behalf of the residents, and they can try to remedy it themselves.
Through their developers agreement. Or
right, they feel
litigation.
they have a developers agreement that doesn't involve us, and we don't have any standing in that agreement. They don't want to lose the potential to make a challenge to the change in rate based upon that developers agreement. If we do something on their behalf, that would
Jeopardize.
negate
Right.
the potential for them to use that developers agreement in a potential move, move forward, possibly litigation. I don't want to speak for them. So they're asking that basically we sit on the sidelines until they determine what exact strategy they would like to deploy to deal with this. They may come back and they may not be able to do anything additional. They may come back to us and ask us again to do something, but right now they're asking us to sit on the sidelines.
So
that's how I'm
we're
taking
not
it.
engaged. Okay, that takes me to our next sewer issue. They got pulled last week, and it's not back on the agenda.
Madam Clerk has it for under her business.
Yeah, 'cause you just gave it to me.
Because I didn't tell her to put it back on the agenda quick enough yesterday because I was still negotiating with the city and I was having council look over the language I got from the city, so we were going back and forth. I missed the cutoff and I asked her to bring it up under her business since it would have been an old
Well,
business.
Madam Clerk, can I bring you into my business right now so we can work on this? There's a lot of things going on, so I want to just make sure we clean up, button up, do whatever we're going to do. Like I said, the letter caught me off guard because I thought we had engaged you to do that, and then I get this letter that says, please don't.
Well, I had. I just wasn't able to reach a satisfactory point that both parties felt that they had resolution.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what do we have there, Teresa?
That's what I had received yesterday, so I'm assuming it's kind of the same thing we had last week to approve and enter into an agreement.
Okay,
on
let
the
me refresh the issue. We sent the issue back. We wanted some guarantee that they wouldn't change the ordinance.
Okay, this is in regards to sewer service to Albany Avenue, which has 4 homes that were done under NSP, built in a partnership with Lorain Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead now.
The board wanted some assurances that they wouldn't change the ordinance, and so that we simply entered an agreement. Then somewhat down the road, they changed the ordinance, which would give them the ability to change that fee. It took a little while, but Law Director Riley looked over our request and some language that I had from our prosecutor's office, and I thought that, I read your email, you thought we got more, or a little bit stronger language than they would give us with regard to that ordinance.
Yeah, I thought, well, I mean, they agreed to not increase the rates. Yeah, the earlier language of the resolutions said they agreed not to go more than 150% of their inside rates, but we wanted to make sure that they couldn't pass another ordinance that enabled them to get around that.
The only thing that
agreed to do.
Right. The only thing the law director asked is if they're required to change it by law. Obviously, they can't guarantee not to change it to us. If something happens in the law that requires a modification of that code ordinance, which sounded very reasonable. Almost all contracts that I deal with have some kind of savings clause with regard to those kind of legal changes and issues and regulations.
So the current agreement we will enter would say those homes will pay 150%
of the in-city
rate. There is no fee. They've agreed not to raise it unless there's been a by-law reason.
Right. I believe that a fee is a change in the rate. So if they say they're not going to increase the rate, adding a fee. So if we put the word no fees, then they add a surcharge, and we put the rate no surcharge. They'll
make up a new word.
Right. It could go on forever. So, and that's pretty much going to be the challenge, I believe, that may come out of. Well, first it'll come out. Do they have a contract? And I think that needs to be cited by higher jurisdictions. And then if they have a contract, what constitutes a change in that rate? Because in my mind, the fee is a change in that percentage of that rate. Call whatever you want. It increased, and so I think we have good sound language here to prevent that from occurring.
Okay, so do you have an updated language, Teresa, or are you just going to use the one from last week, entering agreement with the City of Lorain to 150% of their in-city rate to gain sewer service on the Albany Avenue sewer?
Yes, I'll add that to what we had last week.
Okay, I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, the housing, this is low-income housing or housing for seniors, correct?
Low to moderate. One of the houses is built to complete ADA specifications, so that hopefully we can provide that to a person or family that is struggling with disabilities.
Okay. And first I want to thank you for going through and getting the language changed, and Jerry, Mr. Ennis, thanks for catching that to make the language stronger. Here's my concern, is that by going to 150%, we're setting a new benchmark in Lorain County for sewer rates.
No, I think Amherst is already at that, Tom.
Amherst is at that, but
Okay,
they
so it's
cannot
not
go,
a
they
benchmark.
cannot go any further.
They can always change codified
right,
ordinances.
But when you talk with other groups, North Ridgeville, Lorco, Avon Lake, 150%, everyone's seeing that as basically on the top of it, where if you go any more, you're gonna get beat up on it, but it's right on that borderline of 150% being too much. My concern is that we go through and we approve this at 150% when it's been 125, 130, and if we would have had these homes built with a contract, or actually had a contract prior to building these homes, we probably would have got it at the 130 rate. Now we're going to go to 150. We are going to increase that benchmark. It could continue to go up higher. We know that there's a push for a regional sewer in Lorain County, and I think that this is going to go up even more. I would still like to go back to the city of Lorain and try to negotiate with them to go down to that 130 mark.
I would like to do that, but I think we've exhausted all of our possibilities because I've said no at this point multiple times, Mr. Cordes. 150 is their number at this point. And the only reason I know the Amherst thing is they told me.
Yeah.
Amherst went to 150, so.
Yeah, they went to that a few years ago.
Yeah.
So that already set a benchmark at 150.
Yeah, but again, they cannot go through and they're pretty much, it's a small district. They're not going to be able to expand that district with the city of Lorain being there.
Right, they can't expand a district, but they could increase their rates, though, if they so chose. It's a codified ordinance in municipality. They could rate, they can make 160, 180,
That's what I'm worried
200.
about. If we start to go up and get more individuals at the 150 rate, is that going to say, well, we're at 150, now we can go to 160?
And just
I mean,
to
you're
point
paying
out to the regional
50%
process,
more.
Tom, actually in the regional process, just, because I've been going through that with the Chamber of Commerce, leading it for the last couple of years, actually it shows the rates decreasing to accomplish that in 98% of the communities. If they all were to get together on the entire plan they put together, there are only 1 or 2 municipalities who would actually pay more.
Yeah, I'm talking with individuals who have been approached on the regional one, and they want to actually increase the rates. They want to go above what most of them are paying at 110%.
Okay, it'd be above the 110.
Right.
Yes, I wouldn't, yeah, it'd
So,
be above that.
and
but-
that's one of the reasons that the regional discussion has come to a halt.
No, the Avon Lake, North
Avon
Ridgeville fight
Lake-
didn't help at all.
But part of it is, though, that the rate increase, and when you have engineers, even our engineer, saying 150% is too much, he doesn't see why it would have to go up there. 130% would be adequate. Again, I'm just looking at, low-income housing, and we're going to actually charge them 50% more than what the in-service is.
No, we're going above they're at $1.30 now, or whatever it is in a fee in the township, correct? As of the last,
Well, yeah.
they made Hidden Valley and Sheffield Township and a portion of Leary Township 130 plus a fee, or at least Hidden Valley area.
Well, yeah, they.
And
Which
have-
works out to
elderly-
163% versus,
106, right.
so here we're at 150.
Right.
We
And
have
they're
4
probably going to be
houses.
low usage if they're elderly, they don't use a lot of water, so the fee would be more than, they would,
You're
be
still
more than
looking at-
150.
You're still looking at, no, at 150%, your low usage comes close to the 150. It's when you get above to the medium and above, or the 900 cubic feet, that it actually goes above well above the 150%. So depending on where you're at in your usage.
Right,
yeah.
that's what predicates where the percentage is, but it's still dollars and cents. We've got 4 homes, Metropolitan Housing is ready to fill them, it's NSP money that built it. I think at this point, with all the negotiations, it's been going on for 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, I would like to see if we could actually get Metropolitan to maybe go in and talk with the city officials as well, because those homes are.
That's not their job.
I know it's a.
They know they have. They have.
They did.
They just to let you know, I think your suggestion's spot on. What do you think we did?
Yeah.
Right.
We tried to put the same kind of leverage on the other side. I was looking for whatever leverage we could find to be able to tease out this contract, and so that's been accomplished. Trust me. And while I think it's helped get to this point, they weren't able to pass this barrier any more successfully than we were able to.
Again, my concern is 4 houses, but I know we want to get people moved into it. We want to close the program out on the project. It's just going to the 150 mark. We know from what you've told me, there's no secret they want to go through and reopen all the contracts. And
Well, I don't know if they want to reopen, but I will tell you, and I've said it many times out here, so I'll continue to say it. I haven't tried to be secretive of that. This is going to be the city's posture with regard to future contracts and those contracts that come due for renewal. I haven't had to try to figure out at the table where they're going to be at, who's positioning who. They've been pretty clear, which I like. I may not like the rate, but I like the fact that I'm not trying to figure out what the elephant hiding under the carpet is. This is going to be their posture going forward, and the mayor has indicated that to me, and I believe he has the support of his council on moving forward. And what he told me, in fact, I think council was a little bit more aggressive, correct, and wanting a significantly higher rate, and the mayor brought some perspective to that issue at the 150 rate. So yes, this is going to set the future of where they're going to be at.
There's a motion on the floor, Teresa.
Yes, and a second. Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
No.
I'm done.
You're done?
That's done, I think. Commissioner Williams?
Okay. Well, I had a chance to talk to Ms. Kokoski yesterday, and I was looking for you, Mr. Kalo. Good news, Friday I met with a company that actually wants to come here to Lorain County. And I want to talk to you about it in an executive session because it could utilize the county property and sell or lease the property. But they're looking at bringing a new company here, small, $36,000, $40,000 a year.
How many employees, Tom?
Start off would be up to 8 employees, but then there's going to be other industries that could come in from this. The good part about it is also a green company. So it's going to, small potatoes, but step in the right direction in that. But
we take them one job at a time in
exactly.
Lorain County. We've said that for years.
A good company, willing to invest here. They want to be here. And I spent most of the day with the CEO on Friday, and we had a great conversation on it. So if all goes well, we should hopefully have something, a contract done by late summer. So. That was on Friday. The other thing I wanted to bring up was last board meeting, it went long, the Murray Ridge holiday cards, birthday cards. Again, Hal's going to put it up on the screen just to show them. These are cards that are actually made by individuals that are in the program, and then Murray Ridge goes through and they sell them. So for elected officials, if they're going through to sell out, to send out Christmas cards, you could buy the card from this Murray Ridge, and on the back actually has a little story about the individual who created the card. It's truly a good, feel-good story, and I hope that you'll take a look at the cards and give Murray Ridge a call. And if you want, you can go out and actually do a tour of their facility. It's a great program, and a lot of dedicated staff out there. I just want to tell them how much I appreciate everything that they do out there. And there's one thing here. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up my calendar.
Because computers aren't working here anymore.
Nope.
Or phone line. Apologies to the public to interrupt. Our phone lines have been off and on for 6 or 7 days now. There's a glitch somewhere in Windstream's operations we're trying to address. So if you can't reach us, please don't get mad at the treasurer's office or the auditor's office in regards to your property taxes. They're not ignoring your phone calls. Yeah. Well, they're not getting through to us.
Let me go further. It's not our phone system, so
right.
don't get mad at the commissioners either.
Right. Yeah.
It's an outside issue with the backbone provider,
right.
So we don't have, our phone system isn't in collapse. It's we have to take what they give us also. So it's not your office or anybody else's.
Well, thank you for filling the time on that. Yeah. On Monday, I actually met with the domestic relations judges. And they're going to reach out to other counties and possibly see if we can actually get additional support for Turning Point. I had contact with Job and Family Service and Children's Services from different counties. They're running into a similar issue that we have here with foster care. So they would like to see if they could actually utilize Turning Point for a temporary stay, and then actually hopefully offset some of our costs.
We do similar to a county jail with a per-day rate? Is
Yeah.
that the intent?
Right.
Okay.
It's like $40 a day for foster care.
No, I'm not sure what
It is $40 a day.
Is that for
per
all-
child?
Is that for all children's services or just ours?
Ours.
Ours. I'm
I
not
don't
sure
know
what
what
the
other
other
ones are.
counties would be. But the judges are going to take a look at that and reach out to the other counties on that, so that's a good thing. And then yesterday I met with the organization that is looking at getting their 501c3.
C3.
Right, to create a domestic, a shelter for domestic abuse victims. And great people, they're leading it, they're working on it. They're actually looking at purchasing a facility where they would have 27 rooms. So when that comes out, they would like to extend an invitation to the Board of Commissioners to sit down with them and learn more about them. So,
Cool.
end of my report.
Before we go on, just want to bring something up that was on the agenda. February 2nd from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Lakeview Park, there'll be a candlelight vigil for Herbie, which is the dog that was left for dead. And now he's recovering, but he now has cancer. It's sponsored by Abused Lorain, Ohio Dog Nitro Foundation, and animal activists from across the state of Ohio. Herbie is a pit bull mix that was found extremely emancipated on a tree lawn on December 1st. Updates of Herbie can be followed at Lorain Animal Clinic. So anybody interested in attending that, you're more than welcome.
The commissioners will meet next Wednesday at 9:30 and then also at 6 p.m. for the public hearing on the building department. Board correspondence.
Move the reading be waived.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Public comment?
Anyone wishing to address the board, sir? You stuck around, so come on up here and tell us your name and your address.
There's some information to be circulated.
Okay.
I'm Ken Kay, and I reside at 638 Rundle Street in the village of LaGrange. A little discouraging hearing about all the dollars that we can't use to support our county. I think most discouraging is talking about the heroin abuse. Personally had that situation in my family. I also lived on constitutional or institutional Chile for a week. So I know what it's like to try to get a bus ride and get a job. I just wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about an opportunity for the state of Ohio. I'd like to see Lorain County be part of the force to get the state to move forward. One of the things, and I heard Tom mention green energy, and you know, we've been sold a bill of goods on green energy in the SB 221 in the state of Ohio. Studies are starting to come out now starting to show that when we utilize wind and solar, those do not, they cannot afford, especially in Ohio on a cloudy day or a day where we have no wind, they have to have backup systems. And those backup systems are typically diesel, and they emit CO2 into the atmosphere. So we are talking about SB 221 it not being a clean energy, especially in the state of Ohio. Wind and solar are the highest cost of electricity production in the world and is more suitable for residential and not a supply for our nation's grid, much less in Ohio. Consumers are paying for this in subsidies, and manufacturers are going to be leaving the state of Ohio to find lower cost electrical generating states. Or as what I've experienced as a manufacturer's rep, they'll just keep going to China and getting quotes, and our manufacturing processes will slow and the doors will close. I'm not here to claim doom and gloom. Quite the opposite. I'm an optimist, and I also like to consider myself a realist. I'm here to inform you that back in the 50s and the 60s, America had a great technology for low-cost energy. They still have it. It provides both very cheap electricity and clean transportation fuel. It's nuclear. I don't want to scare anybody by using the word nuclear. It is it's in a pressure vessel, it cooks, and it can blow up. One thing that a lot of people don't know of is safe nuclear energy, however, and that was developed in the 50s and 60s. This is called liquid fluoride thorium reactors. It uses thorium in a liquid. The salt is the coolant. You're running at atmospheric pressure of 14.7 psi. It cannot blow up, it cannot melt down. Because it does not need water to operate, it becomes a modular unit. Since it's a modular unit, it can be the size of a semi-truck trailer, it can be the size of a railroad car. It is 4 times more abundant than uranium. It emits 0 CO2s. And it has enough energy. We have enough thorium on this planet, not to count the moon and the ocean bottom, but just on the Earth's crust, to outlast the sun. I am telling you, this is not a hummingbird motor, a conspiracy where the federal government will not allow us to develop it. It's already been developed. Most importantly, being 200% more efficient, it runs at 700 degrees C, and it can eventually be running at 1,000 degrees C. In the test lab down at Oak Ridge National Labs in Tennessee, they ran it up to, I believe, 750 to 900 C, and that's because the current plumbing that you would use for this liquid sludge of coolant, the salt being the coolant, and the nuclear thorium mixed in with a little bit of uranium, they didn't have the technology today like they have with ceramics. So now when you can go into a new test facility or test nuclear unit, you can go ahead and increase that temperature. Once you get into the higher temperatures, then you're talking about synthetic fuels. What it can do, because it's running at a high temperature, is it's a process heat. That process heat can help produce steel. It can desalinize ocean water. It can heat homes in Elyria and Lorain, because you have that high temperature, you could start heating the water, and you can tear up every road you have here in town and replace it with new plumbing, and the people could put thermal heating units in their home. Charge them $50 a month, $75 a month. It's a lot lower cost than what they're paying to heat their home today. And you've just replaced all your plumbing in all of the city, in the county. It's so efficient that I would imagine that you've all heard about plasma gasification. That is taking rubbish and turning it into fuel, and you wind up with a 15% aggregate. While you're producing electricity at 50% lower than today's cost, you can be producing 85% of that landfill in Oberlin could be turned into fuel. 15% balance is aggregate. That's the waste. That goes into your roads. We all know, or should have known in the history, that there is coal to liquid known as liquefaction. It was done in World War II to move the armies for Hitler. And it is being done today extensively in South Africa. We could take the rest of the state, the Appalachian portion, where there's coal, and we can have clean coal, and we could reduce our transportation fuel costs and have less wars as we try to stop the OPEC influence. I'm with the Coalition of Freedom. Our only goal is domestic energy independence. We think this can be achieved in 10 to 12 years, the same amount of time that the SB 221 is stating that we have to increase our windmill and solar energy that is only going to raise, which is capped at 3% per year. I don't want a 3% increase in energy for my household or for the manufacturers in our county. I want to reduce that every year. I want to see a 25% reduction in the cost of producing steel so that we can export steel. In the Cleveland area, we've been very fortunate. We have a Dr. Bill Thesseling, we have a nuclear engineer, we have a recent safety engineer that used to work with Babcock and Wilcox, and he's out of Marblehead. And they formed a coalition of, I'm sorry, that's me, the Energy from Thorium Foundation. And what I wanted to do is advise you that next Saturday morning at the Amherst facility, the post office on Park Avenue, at 8:30, the doors open up, 9 a.m. We will have both the economist speaking for the Coalition of Freedom on the cost of the SB 221 and what it's going to do to our communities. And we will also have a nuclear engineer, Don Larson, so that he can give you a little bit more keener insight on what this liquid fluoride thorium reactors can do. I highly recommend that you please come, listen to what we're talking about, and get an understanding of how SB 221 is going to reduce the funding that you're trying to get for your different programs, because you're going to lose tax dollars, you're going to lose employees, businesses are going to shut down. And then that's it. Do you have any questions? I certainly hope to make comments.
I have a few comments.
Yes.
As someone who actually was working on testimony for SB 221 and working on renewable portfolio standards
yes,
on a statewide basis.
Right, I mean, there's some good things.
Well, thank you. And the fights we had with First Energy as they were trying to change legislation and slip things through, and being a board member of LEADCO, the offshore wind project, which we just received a $5 million grant from the feds on.
That's tax dollars out of our pockets.
Without it, everything's tax dollars when it comes to energy. We all know everything's been subsidized or been put down on the user. Nuclear didn't come free either.
We're talking public funding or private funding. We're not asking the government to fund
You
us.
are. I'm not.
Yes,
Sorry. I haven't read through it. I'll give the star.
Okay.
Sustainability director. I don't discount anything until some research is done from people who know more than I do. But I do think there is a market for the wind, a market for solar in certain parts of our country. Is it
certain parts of our country?
Correct,
Yes,
without a doubt. Offshore wind, in particular, we keep our wind up in Lake Erie. It's very costly to be the first in water, but we're one of 4 projects in the country. And once you're first up and you have the manufacturing capability and the transportation and the design of how you're going to anchor them or float them, I think it can be a benefit. And you're right, it's not going to do a ton of commercial stuff. It's going to meet some renewable standards for cleaner energy. And again, I don't know anything about thorium, so this is
well, the thorium is a renewable energy because it's going to outlast the sun, number one. It has 0 CO2 in it, and it also reduces our transportation fuels, which neither solar nor wind can do.
And you said this has been around since the 50s or 60s. How
yes,
come
sir.
our energy companies haven't picked up on this?
It's primarily because it's a very safe nuclear energy, okay, so you don't get fissile material, and this is why I'm asking you to please come to the meeting on the 9th, okay? The Lorain County Tea Party is hosting us, and it's at their facility at the post office, but the main reason is because you cannot get fissile material out of a liquid, where when you get fissile material from a solid fuel, the uranium solid fuel, the advantage is, so what happened is that if you remember back in the 50s and 60s, I remember it very vividly, we moved down on Tremont Avenue and the grandfathers were digging bomb shelters because we were in a Cold War with Russia. So that was going on in the inner city, in the back, little backyard the size of a postage stamp. So the testimony that was being made by Alvin Weinberg, the inventor of the solid or the light water and heavy water reactors, he testified in front of Congress saying that we've made a mistake going after solid fuel. We only burn 1% of that fuel. We should be going with a molten salt reactor and liquid fluoride thorium. Again, fluoride, thorium, liquid salt. It's just the next generation is the liquid fluoride thorium reactor. He testified that that was much safer, and the big advantage was there was basically almost, at that time, it was 1% waste. You have 99% waste coming out of solid fuel. You have 1% waste coming out of liquid fuel because you don't have the transuranics that keep it from burning
It's
and
like
getting.
running my propane tank till empty on my gas grill.
It, very much so. You could wind up with a 1%, and that 1%, 0.7%, will provide us with the needed radioisotopes that we use for MRI imaging, and it provides a what is called an alpha emitter, which is a much stronger and a lower shelf life
But
to fight
Not to
cancer.
interrupt you, because we normally only give 3 minutes.
I don't mean to get this much into detail,
Right,
but
but I'm asking, how come the other energy companies haven't picked up on this and are using it?
they're just starting to. Southern companies down in Georgia that just got the nuclear permits in Georgia, which has been the first permits in, what, 15, 20 years? They are very seriously looking at it with a group in Huntsville, Alabama.
Well, George,
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Georgia's very active. Actually, part of their state economic development council is made up of the energy companies doing affordable in Huntsville. Of course, is the large facility that is basically a gigantic NASA.
Yeah, well, this is where I get excited, Ted, okay? We have Plumbrook facility right over there. We have Glen Research right over in Brook Park. We sit right in between them. We're talking the Plumbrook facility being the size of a Boeing aircraft facility. That is substantial support. We're talking about the medical center that just was developed in Cleveland. So when I was talking a little bit about medical isotopes, I mean, that just takes their medical facility and extends it. The main reason that this is not, that was put back on the shelf was because you already had, as you know, you had the lobbyists that were already involved in the building and the construction of the light heavy water reactors, the uranium, you had the coal and the nuclear people fighting, okay? This is an opportunity. This is a bipartisan issue. This is what can put Ohio on the map.
That's my suggestion, just to add, not to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Is when you go out and you slap the wind and solar.
I'm sorry, but it's not efficient.
Didn't say it was efficient. I said when you slap them, though, they're all still part of the same coalition when you're talking about a newer, greener, renewable product. So they are a component of whatever you're trying to.
I'm honestly, I'm not here to debate
No,
or argue that point, but the thing is, it pollutes more than they claimed that it would. It costs more than they said it would. It produces more, so it reduces jobs. I'm talking about a 50% reduction in electricity. I'm talking about a reducing the transportation fuels to where OPEC loses its stronghold on us. I mean, if you want to compound everything I'm saying, the wind and solar doesn't do that. So why should we be paying?
But the transportation issue, you've got CNG out there, which is actually February 12th, 14th, whatever the day may be. I've got a conference in Cleveland I'm going to attend in regards to the CNG.
And we are all inclusive on the fuels, okay? We're not, but we're saying that most dynamic of the shale, oil, coal, natural gas, biofuels, I mentioned plasma gasification. We're all for that because with the liquid fluoride thorium reactor, we have much more energy and we can turn a lot more things into transportation fuel. This is something that the solar and the wind cannot do. It can only provide a certain amount of energy. And it's very difficult standing up here because I can go on and tell you more and more of the advantages, and that's why I wanted to be here today to try to encourage this group to take the time to come to that meeting, listen to the economic facts on wind and solar that's starting to show up because studies are now being done.
Well, I think if you don't, I mean, not to continue on forever on this, and because a lot of the audience isn't going to understand it, I'll give it our sustainability director, if that's okay with the board.
Whatever, I would certainly.
Through it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Mr. K, you stopped me after a meeting
I know.
6 months ago or so, and
Yeah,
I gave
2
you
months
Mike
ago.
Chandler's number, name
Yes,
and
you
number.
did.
Did you contact him?
No, I didn't. I've been so busy on this thing that I'm putting about 70 hours a week in it because I believe that firmly in it.
Well, that's
and I
who
believe also
Mr.
in it.
Kalo's referring to as our sustainability.
Okay, I would certainly hope that you personally, because you know, all of you personally would want to know about this, this energy and the potential that it offers, because again, we sit in a very unique area, and we could become, we can make the moonshot, or we can sit back here and we can watch Sputnik. It's our choice. It would be great to have your support.
Yeah,
And so you need to have the knowledge in order to get the support. That's why I'm encouraging all of you personally and everybody here, and I do have the information on that if they'd like the information. It's just an educational experience.
It's interesting reading. I saw that South Africa and Germany is actually using this technology.
They're not using it yet, but what we do have, just for notes, is that the Senate had two bills, one in 08, one in 2010. March 2010 was the was SB 3060, Thorium Security Act of 2010. Again, that's SB 3060. Reed and Hatch sponsored it. Reed sponsored it because he didn't want the Yucca Mountain nuclear waste. Now, that's the other thing the thorium does, or a molten salt reactor, a younger generation of the lifter, it can burn our nuclear waste. So while we sit here to the east and the west piling up nuclear waste because the federal government doesn't have a place to dispose of it, we could burn it for energy. There's enough nuclear waste to last us to power the world for 10 years.
I'm just going to give the website, so if people want to take a look at it, it's www.th90.org. So
yeah, TH90 is the 90th element on the periodic table, so that's why it's TH90.
Yeah, so
but yeah, anybody interested, I'll be glad. Or can I leave like 5 or 6 or 10 sheets of paper back there that has the information? Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and I just want to encourage you because, I want to see you guys have all the funding you want to do all the things you'd like to do. So, and we're only going to do that by increasing manufacturing.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning? I'll make a motion then to go into executive session as outlined by the county administrator.
Second.
Ms. Kayla?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla? Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.